Hello and welcome to Step It Up. My name is Shalece and I'm a compulsive eater and food addict in Phoenix, Arizona. Lulu and I are super excited to share with you our experience, strength, and hope in the 12 step in working the 12 steps as they're laid out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This meeting will be held on the second Tuesday of each month. We will cover one step per month and there will be a question and answer session at the end of each meeting. Today we will be discussing Step 3. Lulu, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you for 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm already unmuted. Okay. Hi, I'm Lulu. I'm a compulsive overeater. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. And step 3. I think my first segment here, I'm going to talk about the third step prayer, and then in my second one, I'm going to talk about my experience with taking the step. So the third step prayer, which if you read the book, you've read it, you know it, maybe you have it memorized if you've been through step 3, but it's on page 63, and it says, we were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee. That's just surrender. I offer myself to God to build with me and do with me as thy will, meaning like just build me and show me, give me this, help me to stay open to this new design for living, and do with me as you will. Like just present to me, because I'm paying attention now. So show me what I need, what your will is for me. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. That just means, how about if I stop being selfish? Because if I that's the bondage of self. It's a bondage. Self-centeredness is a bondage. It's got me by the throat, okay? I want everything to be my way, and it never happens, and therefore I need relief, therefore I eat, and then rinse, recycle, repeat. It was my whole life, okay? So relieve me of my selfishness that I might better do thy will. The only way for me to do God's will is to be unselfish, because God's will for me is to do for others. Okay, that's the will for me. I'm not going to do very well if I am wrapped up in self-centeredness. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may be witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy ways, they love thy way of life. My difficulties, it doesn't say take away my difficulties. Oh, please take away my money problems, my debt, my bad husband, my rotten kids. It's, like, oh, it's like, poor me. Those aren't your difficulties. Your difficulties are your self-seeking behaviors. It's blaming people, judging people, thinking people should do what you want them to, trying to control people, worrying about other people's opinions. These are our difficulties. It's not your life's problems. I always say there are no problems. There's just like situations. Life is just a series of situations. There's a situation, and don't be so urgent to get that situation out of your life, because there's another one right around the corner. That's just what it's called living, okay? And so may I do thy will always. So that's the third step prayer. Now that is the way that Bill Wilson wrote it in this book, and notice in the next paragraph it says, I don't want to express the idea without reservation. So right here it's saying, the third step prayer, the wording is optional. If you don't like the thys and the those, and they kind of make you, feel like it's too formal, then you just rewrite it, as long as you're saying the same message. And so Dr. Bob didn't quite like that prayer. And Dr. Bob wrote his own third step prayer, and I have a copy of it right here. It's the same thing. I just read, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thy will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. This is the same thing. I'm going to read you Dr. Bob's. It's the same thing. The same wording, just optional. Dear God, I'm sorry about the mess I've made of my life. I want to turn away from all the wrong things I've ever done and all the wrong things I've ever been. Please forgive me for all of it. I know you have the power to change my life, and you can turn me into a winner. Thank you, God, for getting my attention long enough to interest me in trying it your way. God, please take over the management of my life and everything about me. I am making this conscious decision to turn my will and my life over to your care, and I'm asking you to please take over all parts of my life. Please, God, move into my heart. However you do it is your business, but make yourself real inside of me and fill my awful emptiness. Fill me with your love and Holy Spirit and make me know your will for me. And now, God, help yourself to me and keep on doing it. I'm not sure I want you to, but do it anyhow. I rejoice that I am now part of your people, that my uncertainty is gone forever, and that you now have control of my will and my life. Thank you and praise your name. Amen. Isn't that an amazing prayer? It's the same thing. So people are, it can be optional for people if they want to reword it. I knew what the message was in my head, so I was very happy with just saying the third step prayer that's in the big book, I just, because I really translated every line and word of the one in the big book, and I just said that I didn't, I used to have to try to find another name for God because God offended me, the word God. Now it's just like, just say God. It's okay to say God, When I say God, I know what the God is to me. And when I say this prayer, I know the translation for me. And I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Shalece.
Thank you, Lulu. I'm Shalece, a compulsive eater and food addict in Phoenix, Arizona. And as I've contemplated this step and what my experience has been, I've actually had the opportunity. I came into the program 6 years ago and worked through the steps with a sponsor, and then I moved from my location where I was attending face-to-face meetings with this sponsor, and I just felt that I needed a change with my sponsorship. And so I had the opportunity to work through the steps once with my first sponsor and then again with my new sponsor. And I had been in program for about I'd been in program 3 years when I got the opportunity to work from. And when I started working with my second sponsor, I just said, take me through the steps as though I've never been through them. And it turns out that I had never been through them. It was an interesting experience. That's not true. That my first experience through the steps was exactly what I needed to get me to the point that I needed to be at to be able to work them again in a much deeper, more meaningful way. So I will say I worked them to the best of my ability, and I had what I needed up till that point. But each time it was interesting coming into the program with a religious background and with a God. In step 2, kind of had to make some adjustments to my understanding and my conception of a higher power. And I didn't know, I was just kind of trying to figure out, well, how is it? Okay, I know God, and I know who God is, and I know all these things about God, but I don't understand the connection between how God can help me stop compulsively overeating and I don't get that. There were some pieces missing, and I think the decision taking step 2 was where the real shift happened. And for me, the experience of kneeling with my second sponsor over a Zoom call, or maybe it was FaceTime, I can't even remember. But it was such an incredible experience to me. And though I really felt like I kind of knew who God was, and I knew God, and I had conception of God, she said something during, she told me, I'm going to pray first, and then I'm going to invite you to pray. And something that she said during the prayer really struck my heart, and it's still with me today. And it just meant so much to me. She introduced me to God. She said, God, I want to introduce you to Shalece. And for a second, it was kind of like, oh, that's so cute. And then it was like, oh, I don't know God. I don't know who God is, but I want to know God. Sorry, I can get a little choked up. It was a new beginning for me. It was a new beginning that my first sponsor had got me to know God, that I needed to know up until that point. And then it wasn't just words that my sponsor was saying. I want to introduce you to Shalece. This is my friend Shalece. I want to introduce you to her. It was truly like a shift in my thinking. It was truly a shift in seeing that I didn't know God to the extent that I needed to be able to be healed from this malady. And all of the things that I knew about God, kind of just fell to the ground. And it was, I knew God to the extent that I needed to know God up till that point. And then I was ready for some new growth. And it was, like I say, it was funny because it was just, at first it was kind of like, oh, that's so cute. And then it was just like, no, that's not cute. That's power. This is the power. She's introducing me to power, the power that I need to be able to move forward. And just an interesting, to me, step 3 is a new beginning. And it's a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. It's a decision, and it's a new beginning to start growing again, and to open myself up for new learning. And with that, I'll pass for this little segment, and I'll turn it back over to Lulu.
Holy smokes. That was very powerful and beautiful. Thank you, Shalece. So the third step reads, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So at that point, we understand God in a certain way that's forever changing, changes for me all the time. It only gets better and better and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bigger it gets, the smaller I get, the happier I am. It's just, it's my recipe, because I watched it happen. I didn't shoot for that to happen. I've been witnessing that happening to me. The smaller I feel is in conjunction with the bigger, the enlarging my spiritual life. And the smaller I am, and the more one I am with everyone and every living thing, is the happier I am. So the decision here, it's just a decision, okay? So like, this is where I'm kind of weighing my options. So I learned in step 1 what my problem is. I learned in step 2 what my solution is. Step 3 is like, so now what are you going to do with this information? You weigh your options. You can say, one decision you could make is, nah, I think I'll take off. I'll go try Weight Watchers again. Okay? Could be like, well, I'm gonna try it, see what happens. Or you could be like, wow, this is like an amazing thing. Like, I can't wait for this. Now, when I was in this position, I had a very, very weak understanding of God. And the only reason I was interested in strengthening it was because of what I learned in step 2. I was struggling though. I was struggling with even imagining a concept that would be palatable to me and actually practical for me, and to actually be something that's actually feels almost tangible to me. All right, so I knew, like, I was going to be a tough nut to crack. And so it's like that analogy about the 3 frogs on a log. You may know it. If not, I'll just say it. So there's 3 frogs in a log, and one decides to jump off. So how many is left on the log? Well, there's still 3, because he just decided to jump. I didn't say to jump. He just decided to jump, but he didn't jump. But he decided to. So basically my decision here wasn't like, I wasn't going to say this prayer and do this ceremonious step 3, and then all of a sudden this, like, the lights were going to brighten and the sky was going to open up and there it is. No, it was just a ceremonious moment about this glorious decision I was making. Think about that. It was like a big decision. I didn't know how big it was. So, and also notice here it says, turn my will and my life over to the care of God. It doesn't say to turn it over to God, to the care. So I'm thinking, all I really have to imagine is being cared for. Who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like that? Okay? So if I really think I'm being taken care of and I can really feel that I'm taken care of, or maybe one day because of this decision I made, I will feel like I'm being taken care of, well, that's all good. I just know I'm headed in the right direction by taking this step. It's a decision that I'm like, I've weighed my options. I'm as screwed as the third monkey on Noah's Ark. Screwed, okay? And I need to make this decision here, okay? So my sponsor knew exactly what my where I was spiritually, which was pretty bankrupt. She never talked to me like I was bankrupt. She talked to me with the truth, which is that God is working in my life at this moment. And I'm like, yeah, you know. And so anyway, we were going to take step 3, and she had taken so many people through the steps, so many people. Her name is Jan, and everybody that was taken through the steps by her were called Jan's clan. And so I was part of Jan's clan. And she was retired, and she just loved taking people through the steps. You go to her house every Tuesday night. I went to her house every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Couldn't wait to get there. After a whole day of work, commuting into Boston, working all day, commuting back, and then throwing my lunch together, my afternoon lunch together, then hopping in the car, driving half an hour north to get to her house. It was like the best night of the week. And I remember she had this calendar on her fridge with all the people that in her schedule, all these names. She does 18 people a week. And I'm like, holy jeez, she just loves it. And I loved being on the couch with her. Loved it. So some fella that she took through the steps was a carpenter, some guy. And he, as a thank you, I guess, when she was done taking them through the steps, he built her this little kneeling station for taking people through step 3. And it was behind one of the chairs that we sat in all the time. And she's like, Lulu, wait till you see this. And she pulls out this thing. It's made of wood, and it's got like the wood, and then it had 2 kneeling platforms, so you would face each other. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go on the kneeling station, you know? So she lit a candle. We got on the kneeling station, and I was excited about it. But like I said, I was pretty spiritually corrupt. Not corrupt, bankrupt. I wasn't corrupt. I wasn't spiritual. Well, maybe a little bit. So we knelt down, and we held hands. And she looked at me, and she's like, this is it. This is your decision. This is your decision. And it's a big decision, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful. And this process is going to be gentle, and it's going to be, you're just going to love it. So she said, now say this third step prayer. So I had it memorized. So I started to say it. I started bawling my eyes out with emotion. I got filled, like to my eyeballs with emotion. I couldn't even talk. Like you would swear like I had this big God in my life that I just got through saying I had like nothing really, right? And so I'm trying to say the prayer, and I'm crying. I was just so welled up with emotion. I don't know whether it was just like hope or, but for the first few months I've been working with her up until this point, I was like a real tough cookie, like, oh, I don't know if I'm that bad, and, trying to fight everything, and now all of a sudden I'm this big baby on the kneeling station, right? And I'm crying, and then I finally I was like choking on the words, and then I get to the end of it, and she just hugged me, and then we just had that moment, and then So then it says right after the third step prayer, that paragraph that I just read, the wording was quite optional, as long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. And I think that's what's happening to me, right? But then she goes, so we sat down right when the ceremony was over. We sat down and she goes, look what it says in the next sentence, Lulu, look. And I go, she says, read it out loud. It says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. And she says, when does it say we should do that? And I was like, next. And she's like, and we're going to launch like a rocket. We're just going to go like a rocket right into it. And that it's going to be vigorous. We're going to work like our pants are on fire. And that next course of action was the fourth step. So it was in that very moment we sat down and she gave me the instructions on making my resentment list and to start on my fourth step. And then I was leaving and her house that night, and she walked me to the door and she goes, oh, can I ask you something? She goes, well, what was all that about? All that crying and stuff. What was that about? I just wasn't expecting that because of, and she said, I think you got like a little bit of God going on in you. And I was like, I don't think so. Bye. I don't know. I was just the toughest nut to crack. And if anybody told me that I would turn my will and my life over to the care of God, that means I totally trust that every day, however it looks, it's just okay. Even when it's not okay, it's okay. Because I've been around for 61 years and everything's always been okay because here I sit today. So, I'm kind of thinking I got to just live and let live. I have to live and I have to let live. If I let you live and know that you have your life and your will and somebody's taking care of you, whether you believe it or not, for 61 years, there was an energy that I call God taking care of me. I just couldn't put it into words and I didn't know it was happening, but that's what was happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lulu. Such a beautiful experience. It's just so interesting. I love hearing everybody's experiences about coming to know God. Everyone you talk to will have a different experience, and it really, when I hear someone else's experience, it helps my experience and my understanding of God grow. And so I love that. As I've been sitting here, I was just thinking about my experience with the decision to turning my will and my life over. And that decision, where I really, like I say, I was three years abstinent before I really, really, really took that step. But I think about all of the things that happened before that point were so necessary. And I had been making decisions all along that my decision making didn't start with step 3. It started before I walked into these rooms. And it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. I decided that what I was doing wasn't working. That was a decision I made. I made a decision. I discovered through crazy turn of events that there's this thing called food addiction, and I started researching about it and looking it up on the internet, and I decided to find myself a meeting, and I happened into a face-to-face meeting that I wasn't super thrilled with, but that in turn turned me to a big book meeting that was a face-to-face meeting in this small town in Bangor, Maine, actually, and it would be considered a large town in Bangor, Maine. It's very rural, but Bangor is pretty big compared to all of the other. Anyway, so I made a decision to go to that meeting. That was a decision I made. I made a decision to listen. I made a decision to ask for a sponsor. And I made a decision to follow the suggestions that she gave. I made a decision to try something that I'd never done before and see if it would work for me. It was working for her, so I made a decision to try that. And it was all just perfect. And I didn't realize I was making decisions. Actually, I'm just coming to that realization right now as we're talking. It's just all coming to me that, each little thing that was laid before my path was a decision. It's either a decision to move forward or a decision to move backward. And so when I choose to let go of my will, which, I'm a food addict. I wanted to eat. That was what I wanted. But it wasn't good for me. It was killing me. And so making the decision to try something new, to frickin' weigh and measure my food, I did not want to do that. I did not want to commit my food to a sponsor. I didn't want to tell her what I was eating every day. None of her business. But actually, it was when I made the decision that it was her business, and I made the decision to do that. I would say that was one of the best decisions I ever made. And it was just laying the foundation stone for this big decision that comes at step 3. So it's like all these little things that you're just building a really solid foundation, but it's got to be solid. But I would say, even I'm just thinking about people that I know that have relapsed, or I haven't personally experienced relapse, but I know that I'm not immune to the possibility of a relapse. I am a food addict, and that is always a possibility. But I see in hearing their stories how relapsing and then coming back helped them to build a stronger foundation than ever before. So it's all these small decisions that are put before us that we don't even maybe necessarily recognize as decisions at the time, that really can help build a strong foundation to take this step, to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I just think about what if that was step 1? Like, I don't even know, what if the steps are perfectly laid out just so you're ready for the next one. When you take this one, then you're going to be ready for this. When you're ready, and if you're not ready, then you do some more work in that step. And I also love the fact that these are called the steps. They're not called the principles. They're not called the ideas. They're called the steps. This is a program of action. And these decisions that we're making have great impact, can have great impact on the rest of our lives. And I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to make these decisions, to have a choice. At no point during this process do I not have a choice. I love that God has given us the ability to choose, and that we can grow from these decisions. Thinking about the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, it can be a little bit interesting to turn your life and will over to the care of God that you don't quite understand, or that you maybe don't see yet, or that you don't understand, or that you can't even maybe necessarily name. But I think the beautiful thing is that all along, it's as we understood God. And it's interesting because that understanding grows and grows and grows. I understand more about God today than I did about God 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I understood God more than I did 3 years before that. And almost daily, I can understand more as I strengthen that connection. with this higher power. But it's a beautiful thing because it doesn't say anywhere in the steps that I need to know who God is perfectly in order to move forward. In the second step, it's came to believe in a power greater than ourselves, that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. It doesn't say anything about understanding who that God is perfectly. I just need to know that there is a power greater than myself, and I can make a decision to turn my life over to that power, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be defined. It doesn't need to be defined. But each decision and each step will help us grow in that connection if we let it. And I think it's just such a beautiful process. And for me, it's been absolutely life-changing. I was killing myself with food. I was committing suicide by food. I didn't know it, but it would have killed me eventually. It would have been a slow, painful death. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I had to make each one of these decisions, and that I still have the opportunity every single day to make the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him. And with that, I will pass. Okay. Let me pull up there we go. Okay.
Very nice, girl.
Thank you so much. We'd like to open it up for questions. If you'd like to ask a question about step 3, please click on more, then chat, and leave your question in the chat section.
Just real quick while we're waiting for questions. You know, I kind of, you know, you can create your own religion if you want. That's what I did. I just have one parishioner. It's me. We agree on everything. We can change our mind on anything. And it's a beautiful, peaceful parish. And you can just kind of create your own too. So when I come to this meeting, I see that every religions and their different conceptions, and this is kind of like my, you know, going to like the Vatican. Yeah. the big, you know, the big cheeses. It's just like where everybody, and what's really wonderful about this program is that everybody has their own conception, however it works for them. I don't need to even know what it is. I wanted to know what it was when I didn't have my own conception of God, and I found it really interesting to even fathom what that would practically be. There was nothing more I wanted to do was to ask people, like, what can you tell me about your God? And I just thought, like, that just seems like such a personal question, so I wouldn't ask it. It was kind of like going up to somebody and asking them how much they weigh. That's how I felt. I was like, you just wouldn't do that, right? So I'm like, no, I can't ask that. But like, my goodness, if anybody ever came up and said to me, oh, can you tell me about your God? It seems like you have a really good connection with God. I'd like to understand that. I wouldn't say, excuse me, that was a fairly personal question. I mean, it's just something that we all adore and love, right? And, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So I just had to, I was just like, you know, I was of the educational variety, and I had no white lights, no sudden moments. I was the educational variety, and I have my own religion called Luluism, and it's a very pleasant mass. I have mass. I see some questions. The to-do list. Oh, the dreaded to-do list. You want me to take that? To-do list question?
Take it away,
Okay.
Lulu.
Okay. Well, you know, God doesn't, you know, do the dishes for us. You know, you just have to be grateful that you have dishes and that you have running warm water, and that you have dirty dishes because you had food to put on them. Okay, so if you have an errand to do, like you need to go to the bank and deposit money, well, poor you, right? So, so my point is like, I think a lot of my sponsees, we get, like, people that I've worked with get like really tripped up with to-do lists. And this is the advice that I give them. And it seems like they've put it into action and that it's been helpful. I suggest that they break their to-do list into three separate lists. So you don't have one list, you have 3 lists. One is, gotta do this. That would be a commitment that you have with anybody, because we don't make commitments and then blow them off. If you have an appointment you want to keep, you don't blow things off. Things that must get done. And there's a lot of things. That's just comes along with having a life and being human and having a home and having a car and having a job, all these things that, like, you're really blessed with, okay? And then you have another list that is things that you really, 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 really want to get done. But if they really didn't get done, like, to say a month, it wouldn't be like really catastrophic. It'd be okay. It would be okay. It would be really nice, though. It'd be really nice if I mended those pants and took these things to the dry cleaners. But you know something? If I didn't have that dry cleaned for a month, I'd still be okay. That would be the second list. The third list is, if this stuff I really want this stuff to get done. I really want it. But if it never got done, everything would be okay. And you just keep 3 lists. And you'll just see how it will just all feel less demanding. And it just puts things more in perspective. And then you can find where it's not so overwhelming when it's all on one list. So that's just what came to me one day in my own little church in my head. Because it just seemed like I was overwhelming myself, and it just seemed insane. And I learned in step 2 that I had a touch of insanity. Do you have anything on that, Shalece?
Yes, I think step 4 through 9 really helped with my to-do list. And also step 10, because that is actually steps 4 through 9 as well. But I have seen a pattern in myself that I create things on my to-do list that actually don't exist and they don't need to be done. And I put expectations on myself that I think other people have of me, and it just ain't true. There is no expectation there. So I think getting clarity of thinking through working the steps has really helped, like, turn my to-do list into a lot smaller to-do list. It's more like the to-do list is keep your thinking clean. That's my to-do list. But I find it's funny because, again, as I get stressed, if there's like anxiety about my to-do list, there's stuff on that to-do list that doesn't need to be there. And I like the idea of, Lulu, the way that you said, just like breaking it up.
Also, something in the somewhere in the big book it says, I think it's on step 10 or 11. You know, whenever I go looking for something, I never find it. Isn't that always the way? But it says like, you know, direct us on who we should be. It's like God has the duty of being. So, like, on the top of your to-do list is who should I be? I always say, I know people argue with this, and because I get it, because I did too. Program, family, job. That's the order of things. Put your program first. So in your to-do list, that first one, that critical one, at the top of that list should be anything to do with program, because that's just going to just change everything. On every list, on every day, for the rest of the day, program comes first. The way I measure my food, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to have everything prepared and ready for me, and because that's the most important thing of my day. And all my commitments with my step 12 work, my 10, 11, 12. That's the steps that I live, 10, 11, and 12. That comes first before, I'll let my lawn grow a foot high before I would go out there and mow when I had programmed things to do. And then yeah, it's kind of like, it's really nice, like in step 11, or step 10, one of them, it says like upon awakening, think about the next 24 hours ahead. What can I pack into the stream of life today? What a question. what can I pack into the stream of life today? Put that on your to-do list. So Lindsay says, we're talking about relinquishing control, and so it's about like, there's the big things you want to relinquish control, and then there's the little things. I just say keep working, just work your steps, and then relinquishing control won't be something that you do. It will be something that's kind of taken from you. It will just be who you become. Because you can't, like, a control freak, it just can't stop controlling. Because trust me, I'm one, but not anymore, because I just get it. I get it now. But it comes with the work. Like, this is a gift. To be a control freak and not control, to be a food addict and not eat, to be an alcoholic and not drink, and then to not want to drink and not want to control and not want to eat, it's a miracle. That's a little miracle. So it's like, you can try. It never hurts to try. I always say, just pay attention to yourself. Watch when you're doing it. Even if you just watch yourself do it, you're learning what you want to change. You're seeing firsthand you, not somebody else telling you, stop controlling me. You can just be like, ooh, there I was again, trying to control somebody. Just take notes and don't beat yourself up. Just knowing it, you're aware of it, is a step in the right direction. And just give yourself a thumbs up to that instead of beating yourself up. Do you have anything for that, Shalece?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think letting go is a process, and it's where things really started to change for me was during step 4. So like taking step 3, okay, I'm going to turn my life and my will over to God, but step 4 kind of shows me how. And it shows me where I'm controlling. It shows me where I'm trying to play God. And it shows me that tug of war. And I have noticed that if I'm playing tug of war, whether it's a big thing or a small thing, it's a thing I need to let go of. And it takes some time sometimes to recognize that, but where there's those emotions of like, then it's absolutely something I should talk with my sponsor about. It's something I should see where am I trying to control? What am I trying to do? And then just let go completely. And the tug of war ends when I let go. And it's, I don't know, it's miraculous. Some things, I'm just thinking about my experience with my girls where I was really trying to help them with online school recently. And I was in a tug of war, like, I need to make this happen. I need to make sure they're doing this and this. And I was making myself crazy. And so my sponsor and God showed me how to let go and how to support them instead of trying to control everything and control the situation. So it's just every time there's a feeling of that tug of war, I need to look at something and say, okay, and whether it's big or small, it can be small things, it can be big things, but there's, that feeling of just like that tug of war, like I need to be in control of this. But it's a process. Like Lulu said, I mean, it's just a process of awareness and then just moving toward.
When you just see it's just not serving you well, and basically what you'll see over and over is that when you're trying to control, you don't have it anyway. Like, that's why we keep trying to get it, because we don't really have it. And then and when you just start watching that, you start watching your life like a movie, and it's just like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do next. I wonder what stupid thing I'm going to say next. I wonder what I'm going to expect you to do next that you're not going to do, and I'm going to be mad again. Like, everything just starts to be shown to you. Just pay attention, And it's just like I said, this is just a decision, and steps 4 through 9 are what's going on in me that's blocking me, severely blocking me from this wonderful peace and freedom. What is blocking me? That's what comes out in 4 through 9. And in this question, in your first days of work in step 3, working step 3, are you saying, well, I didn't work step 3, I took step 3. That's a step I take. I always say like steps 1 and 2 are steps that I learn. It's basically an education in myself. And step 3, I actually steps 3 through 9 I take, and steps 10, 11, 12 I live. So I didn't really work step 3. I took step 3, I studied step 3, and then I took step 3. And the changes I made to my daily activities, well, post step 3, next I launched out on a course of vigorous action. I picked up the pen and I started writing. I didn't do no Google Docs. I didn't have any Google Docs, and it wasn't done electronically like it is today, but it works. It works. I was determined to make it work with somebody that wanted me to do the steps with them that didn't live near me. This was before the virus. And I was like, well, we can try it. And you know what you do? You set your computer down and you both kneel down on the floor. You're in another country. I'm in here. We kneel down on the floor. We reach our hands like this, right? We each light a candle and we take step 3. You just make it work, you know? And so how did my day activities change after that day? I was writing. Now I was writing 4 steps. So write. My hands used to cramp. They used to cramp up from writing because I wasn't sponsoring. I wasn't qualified to sponsor. I didn't have anything to show anybody really. I was going to meetings and I was writing, and then the next Tuesday night I'd go back to my sponsor's house and she'd take my notebook and she'd look it over, see how I was doing. And now what we do is we email it back and forth. You know, write one and send it to me. Let me see. Let me make sure you know you understood what I said, how I explained it, and then the unraveling process begins, and that's 4 through 9. And it doesn't. You don't have to even wait for it to be over. It's like in fact, step 3, promises. Remember we talked about the promises last time. The step 3 promises are in that paragraph right before the 3rd step prayer, which is on page 63. So the promises are right, the paragraph that starts, we are now at step 3, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Yes, at that moment, I could see that. I could see it because I was watching people in program, and I'm like, wow, like, people talk about what they're contributing to life and hacking into the stream of life. And I was just listening, and I was curious. So I became interested. It doesn't say all of a sudden you're just contributing to life everywhere you go. It says I became interested in seeing what I could contribute to life. And as I felt a new power flow in, as I enjoyed peace of mind, I was starting to feel that power flow in. That's why I bawled my eyes out. As I was enjoying peace of mind, I was enjoying peace of mind at that moment because I was full of hope, a whole new level of hope. As we discovered we could face life successfully, it doesn't say I was facing life successfully, it says I discovered that I could. See that promise coming true? I'm like, oh yeah, I have a feeling I can be a smashing success here in this life. I think it might be possible that I'll never hurt myself again with food, right? That's a smashing success for a food addict. And as we became conscious of his presence, it doesn't say I am conscious, I'm becoming conscious of his presence. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. It doesn't say at this point that I've lost my fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. Those are in the promises in step 9. That's when it says we have a new freedom, a new peace. We're not afraid. We're not, those are big ones. Those come with more work. But right here, I began to lose my fear of today, tomorrow. It's just the beginning. We were reborn. At this point, I had a renewing of the mind. That's what I see of reborn. I had a renewing of the mind. I had a new ideas on what was being presented to me as a potential for me. If I just did what this woman said, I was like, yep, I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm so desperate. I'm in it. Do you have anything for that, Shalece?
No, I think you covered it. Just again, that step 3 was a decision. Oh, sorry,
Decision.
blanked out there. Just a decision, and then in the days after that, it's boom. I'm writing. I'm getting those things done. I'm doing because it's in that writing and in those things, that's where I can learn how to turn my will. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to turn my will in my life over to God. I had made that decision, but steps 4 through 9, 10, 11, 12, that's where I learn how and what it is I need to do to change.
Yeah, I can translate that. I can translate that for you, Amy. I have a perfect example for that. One morning, you know, this is just one example, okay? If you ask yourself, what can I pack into the stream of life? So I have a clear example of this because I've shared it before. One morning, this was back when I was working, and I was taking the bus to work every day. So you commute with the same people over and over, right? So you end up, those are your bus friends. You're going to their wedding, you're meeting for walks, like you just become bus friends, right? So we had bus friends, but there was this one woman on the bus, like we just didn't want to be her friend. She was just like really annoying. And like, we just always kind of wished that she wouldn't sit with us because she would just complain. And she was like a hypochondriac and everything hurt. And then I'm going to this doctor for this and this doctor for that. And I need this surgery and I need that. So it'd just be like, oh, please, right? So I would always kind of like try not to make eye contact with her so I wouldn't have to sit with her. And anyway, so one morning I woke up, and upon awakening, I thought about the next 24 hours ahead. And I thought, what can I pack into the stream of life today? So I actually thought about my day and where I would be and what that would look like. So I said, so I'm going to walk down to the bus, and then I'm going to get on the bus. And instantly, Debbie came to my head. And I thought, you know what I could pack into the stream of life today? I could sit with Debbie and let her complain to me, because somebody like that likes to be listened to. I don't know, maybe she doesn't have anybody that listens to her, you know? And I said, I think I can do that. That's what I'm going to pack into the stream. And I felt it was very, very, very generous of me. This was about 20 minutes of my time, you know. And I went on the bus. I made eye contact with her, and I was like, good morning, Debbie. And she was like, hi. And I sat next to her. And for the whole bus ride, I heard about every ache and pain. I asked her questions about them. Oh, that sounds like it's painful. Oh, that's too bad. And then I got off the bus, and I said, you know, maybe one day I'll be a little bit more gracious, but thank you, God, this bus ride is over. Right? But this is not where I was in my recovery. It was like, that was the best I had. And that was a lot. That's what I packed. And I would imagine that her day was brighter because everybody on the bus felt the same way. So, I mean, you get that feeling when people are avoiding you and shunning you. And it's her own fault because she's not pleasant to be around. But she's just disconnected. She's spiritually disconnected, and that's her, you know, that the 18 addictive agents on the website, when we talk about all the different 18, one of them on there is hypochondria, that need for like people to like feel bad for you, and there's always something wrong, and so it's like that's what she got. So a very, 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 very large woman, very large. So let's just assume maybe she had food addiction too. So that's how it translated to me. It can just really be anything. It's so simple. It's not even like, what can I pack? It's not even about like, what can I do that's like so big and so profound? You know, what's big and so profound that I can do today that everybody's going to think I'm fabulous? See, it's just the opposite. It's like nobody even knew I did that. She didn't even know I did that. I didn't tell anybody I did that. I just did it. And it was kind of between me and God. So if you can find those opportunities, smile. Smile. Walk down the street and smile. Pack that. That is packing something into the stream of life, I believe. I love when I see people smile. And you watch. You walk down the street and smile, and people smile back, you know. And, you know, go for a walk and look at everybody's dogs on the leash and just go up and everybody loves when you tell them their kids are cute and their dog is cute. You know what I mean? We were in the woods the other day, and the dog, it was like these 5 dogs. I was all excited. I was like, come on over, puppies. And they all come, all 5 of them come. And it just so happened one of them, there was a pit bull. His name was her name was Lulu. I was like, no way. And while I'm going, Lulu, I got this other dog. It's got his nose right up my butt. The other one's like, oh my goodness. I was like, I had dogs everywhere. It was a blast. And the woman was smiling. She was like, I'm sorry. I was like, no, I love it, you know. So it's just like, those are the kind of things. It's really not complicated, and it's not, you know, you don't have to sign up to volunteer to change the world, you know. You just change moments. That's how I pack a punch into the stream of life. Do you have any?
Can I add to that? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because I think as women, we have a tendency to have that really long to-do list. And I think one of the ways that I can pack into the stream of life is to unpack that to-do list. And when I am not stressed over my to-do list, then I am a more pleasant person to be around, and I can actually notice things that are going on around me. And maybe not, I don't know, not thinking that I have to do everything is a way that I can pack into the stream of life. And just saying, you know, that I'm going with the flow rather than trying to build a dam or trying to steer the ship or whatever, you know, just more going with the flow, I think, is a way that I can pack into the stream of life, and not feeling like I have to control everything, or not feeling like I have to serve everyone and do everything for everyone. In fact, I think that's detrimental to them, and it's detrimental to me.
And also packing into the stream of life is just let everybody be who they are. Like, how about trying that? Stop bossing everybody around. I did it. It's only because I love you. I need you to stop doing this. It's just because it's the right thing, and you need to, you know, it's just like, you know, it's a different story with dependent children. You know, when that's kind of like what you signed up for. You got to kind of be in charge of someone, and you get to, right? But once they're adults, you know, and once, you know, they're anybody else, it's like, just like, you know, live and let live. That's what you can pack into the stream of life. Let me just see what happens when I don't have to, I don't need you to see my way, you know? Or you can say something, I don't have to one-up you. I can just say, wow, you're amazing. You're amazing. You're really an amazing woman, you know? And it's just so much better than saying, yeah, I did that too. Oh, you went to, you know, 10,000-foot mountain? Well, I went to a 20,000-foot mountain, but yours is still good. You know what I mean? It's just like, you can just tell somebody, wow, unbelievable. You know? It just feels good. It just really feels good. It's also about humility. And that's another one of the principles when it says, you know, we practice these principles in all our affairs. At the end of step 12, what are the principles? You know, there's a lot of different principles. I know we're at an hour. Let me just really quickly, the principles that we get along the way. With step 1, the principle is honesty. Step 2 is hope. Step 3 is faith. Step 4 is courage. Step 5 is integrity. Step 6 is willingness. Step 7 is humility. Step 8 is self-discipline. Step 9 is love. Step 10 is perseverance. Step 11 is spiritual awareness. And step 12 is service. And those are the principles. We practice these principles in all our affairs, not just in program, not just with program people, in all of our affairs. And that humility, once you get like a little taste of that, it used to feel very disempowering. Like I always felt like it just, you know, being humble. Like, you know, you can't show off anymore. You can't tell everybody how great you are anymore. And I did this and I did that and put this on Facebook. Look at my kids. Look at my kid got the National Junior Honor Society. You know, you go on and on with all these things. And just to be grateful just as a standalone, you know, just between me. Like I love when things are like between me and God. When I can do something like really big for somebody, like say something really big, and I don't have to tell anybody that I did it. I didn't even think it was possible. I would have to tell you. Guess who I gave $1,000 to yesterday? You gave them $1,000? Yeah. Oh my God, you're so generous, though. Like, thank you. Now I'll give you $1,000, and I won't freaking tell it. It's between me and God. Between me and God, you know. And I have to ask this person if you could please not thank me on Facebook. I'd really appreciate it, because then it's, you know, let it be between me, you, and God. And you know, like, it's just feels good. I didn't think it would feel good. I thought I needed the praise to feel good. That's what humility is. You know, just I would say you take a bite of humble pie, but we don't want to talk about pie here. We're at the wrong meeting to talk about pie. But I had a nice big fat slice of humble pie in this program. You know. Does anybody else have any other questions? We're going to wrap it up.
Okay. That concludes the question and answer portion of our meeting. We want to thank you all for participating. Lulu and I will be available via email to answer any additional questions that you have regarding this step or the program of recovery. We will post our email addresses in the chat section, and you can also find them on the blog. A voice recording of this meeting and other helpful resources can be found at the link in the chat section, which is 12stepitup.blogspot.com.